threats we face, climate change is perhaps the greatest and most urgent. Record temperatures are now the norm, and a recent survey of many of the world's leading climate scientists showed that most of them expected temperatures to rise to at least 2.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. That's far in excess of the 1.5 degrees rise the world had hoped to keep under. Meanwhile, our attention is drawn by war in Gaza and Ukraine, and elections at home and in the US. I'm Charlotte Leslie, Director of CMEC. However, at the British Council, young leaders have joined the Voices for Climate campaign, active during COP28, and a younger generation is making the case for their future, which is so intrinsically tied to that of our planet. One of those voices is Amr Ramadan, who joins us from Egypt. Amr, welcome.
Lovely to be here.
Amr, you're joining us from Egypt, is that right?
Yes, from Alexandria, Egypt.
Can you tell me a bit about your work with the British Council and about Alexandria, where you are and how your home is affected by climate change?
So I was born and raised in Alexandria, Egypt. It's a Mediterranean city in the top north of Egypt, and it's in the south part of the Mediterranean Sea. And it is one of the 10 most vulnerable cities to climate change, according to the World Economic Forum. So the World Economic Forum in 2019 published a report telling that there are 10 cities that might be underwater by the end of this century, before the end of this century. So my city could be underwater by or before the end of this century. You were asking me about how did I know about the British Council, how I joined them? So it all started when I finished high school. And I finished high school in July 2013. And back then, there was a political shift in Egypt. There was a political shift of power. There was kind of political stress and a lot of things. And I was wondering what is going on. I was just a high school student who just finished high school and excited to start college, but who's also excited to understand a lot about his country and what is going on. So when I started college in September, I found a program with the name of Active Citizen. And I read the ad of it, and they were saying, are you a person who wants to achieve peace, who is excited about peace building, who is excited about community, who is advocating for the needs and demands of his or her community? And I was saying, yes. I mean, that is for me. And then I applied for the program and I got accepted. I got a phone call. I just remember that it was in, I think, November or December 2013. And someone telling me that you are accepted and you're going to go to a camp for 7 days. And you're going to receive a training about community building, about peace building, about active citizenship, and so on. So I immediately told my dad, but unfortunately, he said, no, you can't go there. I was so sad because I just tried to convince him, but he said, no, you cannot go there. I didn't tell you that I started pharmacy school. I was in the faculty of pharmacy. So my dad wants me to become a doctor or pharmacist, and that's why I started a pharmacy school. So I was in the first semester at Alexandria University Pharmacy School, and he said, no, you cannot. And the training was in a different city, in Fayoum city, which is like 5 hours by car from my city to the camp city. So he told me, no, you cannot go there, and you cannot stay for a week out of the house. So I pressured my dad to allow me to go to this camp. And I went there, and it was the best week in my life. I was happy to be introduced to amazing facilitators, and I was amazed by the quality of the content and training and the games. I don't know what I have studied in pharmacy in the first semester. I just remember the basics of chemistry, but I couldn't remember what the professor said in the first lecture. But I remember every activity, you know?
So this camp really, really forged your life in a sense.
The idea of the edutainment and the power of the edutainment helped me to understand how this is very powerful for advocacy. Then when I came to my college, I started to help my colleagues to know more about the power of edutainment, and I facilitated a lot of workshops supported by the British Council. I think few years, like 1 or 2 years after that, I became a certified facilitator, and then have been chosen as international study visitor, as I was able to attend the conference, gathering people from UK, Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, and I was able actually to show UK leaders in February 2017 the work that I have done with my university. Because actually from 2014 to 2017, I was able to start an initiative that trained 3,000 young leaders from 2014 to 2017 about sustainability, about peace building, about community action and civic engagement and active citizenship. So actually the UK leaders was amazed, and many of them we are friends. And then I was like in a contact with the British Council, attending some of their activities. But in 2020, and I was lucky, I got a call from the manager that I met her in 2013, Yusra Gado. She's the head of non-formal education now. And she was following me on Facebook, and she was following all the other activities that I have done and my work. I traveled to the United States. I facilitated workshops in Europe through Erasmus program and other programs. So I was just posting this on social media, and I was very active. I started YouTube channel and a lot of Instagram and other platforms. So she was following me, and she told me that was in early 2022. You know, Egypt is going to host COP27, and we at the British Council are having a lot of opportunities. Would like to jump in. I said, I would like to work with the British Council. But she said, now you should work with us as an organization. So do you have an organization? And luckily, I said yes, because I was able to shift the initiative that I started with the British Council in 2014 into a registered organization. So she was so happy that a small initiative that was part of a program in 2014, a very small initiative that the British Council supported from 2014 to 2017 with a small amount of money, was able to be shifted into registered youth-led organization.
I'm Charlotte Leslie, Director of CMEC, and in this podcast, in partnership with the British Council, I'm speaking to Amr Ramadan, a climate activist from Egypt. Is that youth-led organisation? Is that the Empower Hub?
Yes, yes.
What did your dad think as you went on the camp and it was a life-forging experience?
Actually, my father was so worried that I'm going to be bad at college if I participated in advocacy and activism work. So I was on TV, and I was rewatching myself on TV with my family, and I remember my father saying, "I'm so proud of you." I'm also a public speaker. I have provided more than 100 mega event talks, including one TED talk. It was in Qatar in front of 4,000 people. I spoke at COP27, COP28, IMF World and World Bank meetings. And some of the events, they were in Egypt. So sometimes he attended those events. My mom and dad, they attended, and they are so proud of me. I'm the first one, like in my small family, to go to college.
So in a sense, the British Council and that camp you spent, which drove your future trajectory, helped a different generation, your parents, understand how you can have an academic career and future, but also work for change as well in a constructive way. Is that right?
Yeah, yes. I graduated from the Faculty of Pharmacy. I got my degree. I have a BA degree with very good grades. But I actually, when I finished, I'm not working in the career of pharmacy. I just established my organization, and it's taking all of my time. As long as I have the certificate and I give them a copy of it.
Tell me about the Empower Hub and this initiative that you've set up. What does it do? How does it mobilize young people to address climate issues? How does it work?
So Empower Hub, from the name, is empowering people. And simply our slogan is, we are putting people who are closest to pain, closest to power. And it is very personal. As I told you, that I'm the first one in my family to go to college, because actually my dad left school when he was 7 years old because he had to work with his dad. I also worked with my dad and worked with other employers when I was a child, and I experienced child labor, and I had few accidents while I was working, and I was getting harassed, and I understand how I understand how is it child labor, how practically speaking. But I was lucky. I was lucky because when I was 13 years old, I was able to get a scholarship from the US Embassy I met the US ambassador. I told her my story and where I'm coming from. I was about to be kicked out of school, and she supported me. And the U.S. Department gave me a scholarship to study English, and that's how I'm speaking English with you right now. Because if I was just in a government school, I wouldn't be able to do so. So she gave me a scholarship, and then I was able to pursue my education and continue until high school. And I got 98% in high school. I was able to join a very prestigious school, Faculty of Pharmacy. So I believe that one educational opportunity empowered me to take my life to the next level, and it changed the dynamics of my life. And I believe that intelligence is distributed equally, but opportunities are not. So you can definitely find intelligent people from every class, from the working class, from the poor, from the middle class, and from the rich for sure. But the problem is, if you want to get a high quality education, this is not designed for poor people. I mean, poor people cannot afford quality education, cannot afford going to places of power. So what really we are doing is we are helping students or young leaders from 13 years old to 30, either to pursue quality educational degree, like getting a bachelor degree or master degree from abroad. So we are helping them, we are supporting them, giving them language training, giving them mentorship, helping them to know what opportunity suits them, helping them to apply for financial aid and scholarships. Or the other side is helping them to apply for programs like Active Citizen or other programs, so they can go to places like COP27, COP28, and CSW status on women, those places of power. And they can have a void there, because a lot of people who are from the working class and from marginalized communities are not existent and are not visible on those places of power like COP and CSW and ECOSOC and all those forums. And we are doing this through social enterprising part, as we are designing our own courses and our own materials, but we are having a very fair share contribution. So, I mean, we don't have fixed prices for our programs. No, you have to apply through an application, and then we're gonna check your financial need. And if you cannot afford our courses, we're gonna give you like a free scholarship or something to study our programs and our courses through what we call the Scholarships Academy. But if you can partially contribute, financially speaking, you can do so as well. And if you can be self-funded, it's amazing, because we have people from the rich community, or I mean, they are also joining, and they are self-funded, and they are helping us to fund other people as well. This is the first stream, but the other stream is we are receiving grants from international organizations like the British Council, that we have received 4 grants from 2022 till now. And it was just the pre-COP27. So I applied, and I was happy to be accepted as one of the delivery partners. They chose 3 delivery partners, and all of them were also led by young people, and they are my colleagues. Back then, I was 27 years old. The other person was 26, and the other person was 28 or something. So all of us, the 3, and that's what is really good about the British Council. And I have to say it very clearly, that the British Council, when they are working with delivery partners, and about youth, they are working with youth-led organization. They are not working with organization that's focusing on youth, because there are a lot of organizations that are focusing on youth. But what they are doing, they are partnering with organization that is led by a young person under 30. And that is what makes it great. And what is greater, or the greatest, is this person is most probably one of their beneficiaries. Like, I was once a participant in 2013, and then the other 2 colleagues, they have the same story as well. So that's what makes it a good experience, because we understand the whole journey. So my organization was taking the grant from the British Council and was training people similar to the camp that I attended. But now I become the manager. I become, the person who is leading and coordinating everything. And it was in collaboration with another UK organization, UKYCC, UK Youth Climate Coalition. And we were able to get 3 UK leaders and 3 Egyptian leaders to work with each other. And then we took another grant, like the 4th one, Inclusive Youth Empowerment. And now we are training young leaders all over Egypt, not only in Alexandria, but all over Egypt, about active citizenship, community building, advocacy, and so on.
What role does climate change play in this? You're obviously very passionate about climate change, living in a city that could be underwater by the end of the century. How do you use the Empower Hub to help young people advocate for action on climate change?
The climate crisis is the most existential crisis that could unite all of us, because is not going to hurt a certain community or a certain race or a certain faith or a certain class. No, is going to hurt all of us. But we have also to understand that this crisis is going to affect us on a different levels. So people like my dad and my mom are going to be highly vulnerable to the climate crisis. Even they are participating the less. Like my dad has never been on a plane. My mom has never been on a plane. Okay. So they are participating the less, but they are going to be affected more than anyone else. So I think that we need to understand that the climate crisis is explaining the dynamics of power of the society, is explaining that greedy people who want to profit over our bodies and over the bodies of the next generation and the upcoming generation. And it explains a lot about how society is working. And so the climate crisis is highly intersected with all of the injustice issue that we have. So I believe that the climate crisis is a gender crisis, is a social crisis, like is a racial crisis. They are all connected and intersected with each other.
I'm Charlotte Leslie, Director of CMEC, and in this podcast, in partnership with the British Council, I'm speaking to Amr Ramadan, a climate activist from Egypt. What are the main challenges you've encountered in advocating for climate action, and how have you overcome those challenges?
I think that the biggest challenge is most of my community members, Egyptian, they are considering the climate change as an elitist issue. So, for example, when I'm talking about people from my family members, my neighbors, I'm talking with them, I say like, is an elite. I mean, we couldn't afford food, or talk about like food prices, or talk about the economic situation, or talk about infrastructure, or and that is easy for me to explain, that it is the climate crisis is intersected with all of those issues that you are talking about. The climate crisis is going to lead into food insecurity. The climate crisis is going to lead into a damage of the infrastructure. The climate crisis is going to make the prices of everything higher, because we wouldn't be able to afford the damage of the climate crisis. So when I'm talking with them this way, they're gonna understand that it really affects them. But I mean, because most of the climate activists, they are not shaping climate advocacy in a form of reusable flask, or I mean, I'm using a reusable flask. I'm not against this at all. This is not climate advocacy. I mean, I'm so sorry to say that, but I mean, if using a tote bag or a reusable flask, this is not climate advocacy. Climate advocacy is pressuring people in power, is making sure that we have a macro decision that is changing the policy that is leading to this climate crisis. And should be on a national and a global level. I do support the individual acts and all the individual work. Yeah, this is so good. I'm having a reusable flask. I'm having a tote bag. I love this. I support this. I post this on my social media, but this is not enough. Is not going to change the climate crisis. This is not going to lead into a radical change. This is not going to save us from passing the 1.5 degrees. This is not going to save us from the heat waves. Okay, so we have to be realistic. We have to make sure that we need radical change. We need to make sure that we as a young people are in power. We are, as a young people, our voices are heard, are represented in a meaningful way.
Relatively recently, you were part of a roundtable discussion with the then UK Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, which was organised by the British Council. What were the key takeaways from that dialogue?
Actually, that was at COP27 just 1 year ago or 2 years ago. But but it was really lovely. I mean, I was happy. I'm going to meet someone representing the UK government and talking with them about my story. And I shared with him the demands and needs of young people. I told him very clearly that we, as a young people, we need to make sure that climate justice is always on the table, And we need to make sure that young people are not just using as a way of tokenism, but they are really represented. And he supported that. He said, like, I mean, because, in a lot of conference and a lot of forums, they are just using young people as a way of, checklist. Like, okay, we have young people. But I was just making sure that young people, they will be always represented, and all of our demands and needs are going to be taken in consideration.
I'm Charlotte Leslie, and I'm speaking to Amr Ramadan, one of the British Council's young leaders in their Voices for Climate campaign. Amr, you've described how the British Council got you onto a camp and how that launched you into your own career, not only pharmacy, but your own career setting up the Empower Hub, which does that for other people. What role do you think education plays in climate advocacy and advocacy in general?
I strongly believe that the education is the winning card to solve this problem, because we are not educated enough about climate. Our education system, I'm talking about the education system in Egypt and worldwide, are not designed to make people aware of their community needs. We have a market-based education, not a citizen-based education. And I believe that we need a radical shift from the market-based education that only make people qualified for the market, to make them qualified to be aware of the needs and demands of their local communities. So that is what I'm advocating for. This is what I'm going to put all my life, okay, available for that. Like I'm just going to spend all my life advocating for this cause, is changing the educational system to make it a citizen-based education system, to make sure that this education system is helping young people to understand the needs and demands of their communities. Education is the only way for all of us to make a change.
To what extent do you think that our short-termism, we think for the short term it's good now, to what extent do you think that kind of I want it all now and I'll think about the consequences later? Because it's difficult to make the kind of changes that we are going to need to make. There's going to be some short-term pain for the avoiding of long-term pain, or for some long-term gain. How do you think we get people to think for the long term?
I think that people will understand the consequences of their choices if they know the cost of it. So if we are aware of the cost of our bad choices, we'll be changing it as soon as possible. But the problem is we are having an economy that there is no price for pollution. So we need to correct this world economy, shifting into ecological economy, making sure that there is a price for pollution. You can call it carbon pricing, carbon taxation, whatsoever, but there should be a way that alarm people that when they are taking bad choices now, they are going to pay the cost of it now. And if they want to take a bad choices, they will be paying for their bad choices. Actually, we couldn't make everyone good. Okay, we couldn't make everyone pro climate. We are not in a very totalitarian society that we could like ask everyone to do a certain type of thing. But I think we should alarm people that if they are going to buy, for example, a plastic bottle, they're gonna pay the true price of it. If they get a plastic bag, they're gonna pay the true price of it. Okay, they're gonna pay the price of pollution. And I think that this is going to help us as a transitional way. But then it depends on the situation. If we can ban like some of those bad choices, if the cost is not affecting, we should ban. Like Rwanda, for example. I was in Rwanda last July, and they are banning plastic bags. They haven't banned the plastic bottles yet, but they were able to ban plastic bags.
Very interesting. Do you think there's a big generational split in the understanding of the threat of climate crisis?
This is a very complicated question for me, but I think that maybe young people are excited about the climate because they know that, so I was born at 358 ppm 1995, and now the CO2 in the air is 420, around something, maybe minus or plus one. So I could imagine like after this is so in 28 years, it increases from 358 into 420. Can you imagine that? It's more than 62 ppm. This is like, this is has never happened in the whole maybe 1000 years ago or something. Okay, so I would imagine that maybe what is going to happen in the next 20 years.
Just
Yeah.
let our listeners know what ppm stands for.
It's part per million, ppm. So I mean, like the air, the natural air consists of 78% of nitrogen, 21 or 20.9% of oxygen, and 1% that is like, random. A part of this 1%, there is 0.03 CO2. That's equals to 300 ppm. This should be the natural. There was like 200 years ago, if you were like having a sample of the air 100 years ago, well, I think 100 years ago, it should be like 300, 320 or something. Can you imagine like in just 100 year, we went from 300 or 320 to 420. And this makes the temperature is around, the difference of temperature is 1.3. So we are very close to 1.5. If we reach 1.5, 70% of the coral reefs are going to disappear. If we reach 2, 99% of the coral reefs are going to disappear. And 350 million people are going to be threatened by death by heat waves. And the forest damage will be doubled. If we reach 3 degrees, the drought rate will be 5 times. If we reach 4 degrees, cities like mine, Alexandria, will be underwater. I couldn't imagine that. And this is actually could happen. I couldn't say exactly when, but this could happen maybe by the end of the century, or maybe before, maybe in 2070 or 2080.
These are huge challenges. Just to finish off, we have huge challenges, and it's very easy for individuals to think, this is much bigger than me, what can I do? What are your hopes and ambitions for the Empower Hub and for climate advocacy more generally? What's your personal ambition for the future?
I'm very radical about what really I believe in, but I'm very pragmatic about how can we reach it and how can we achieve it. And that's why I'm so optimistic when I see a lot of young people, young leaders who are really aware of the climate crisis, who understand the climate crisis better than a lot of people who are in their 50s or in their 60s or professors. And they are understanding deeply the climate crisis because they are experiencing the climate crisis and because they are aware of the future consequences of the climate crisis on their lives. So that's what makes me optimistic, that the future is going to be led by those people. And actually, I don't want the future to be led with these people. I want the present to be led with those people. So actually, our slogan is 2030 leaders are the leaders of tomorrow and today. So I think that what we need to do is to put young people and to put empower, to make sure life is changing. I mean, we are now in the era of AI. Now we are in the era of startups and entrepreneurship and content creation. I was just listening for a UK content creator who is 13 years old, and he is earning more than the prime minister, and he might have an influence more than a prime minister or more than a minister. We have a lot of climate activists who were young people, and they are having a lot of voice and they are popular. So I believe that education is going to be the winning card, and young people are going to be the winning card for me. And this is what we are doing, is we are educating young people to be able to educate other young people and to educate other community members to be aware of the climate crisis and to join the climate justice team.
I'm Charlotte Leslie, and in this podcast, in partnership with the British Council, I've been speaking to Amr Ramadan, one of the British Council's young leaders in their Voices for Climate campaign and who runs the Empower Hub initiative. Amr, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for hosting me, Charlotte.